Okay.
And you're live.
Okay, so welcome everyone. This is a special meeting that Terry's going to be providing us some more information. So can I have an approval of the agenda that Kayla sent out?
I approve.
Wonderful. Okay. Does anyone have any pecuniary interest in the nature thereof?
Nope.
Okay. Looks like we also need to approve
Sorry,
the minutes.
I didn't see a seconder. That's my fault.
Oh,
Who
sorry,
seconded the agenda? Carol?
Yeah.
Thanks, Carol.
No problem.
Girls are just too fast.
Approval of minutes from the last meeting.
I'll approve them.
I'll second that. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, so then the next would be Terry. You will be leading this section of the meeting. So thanks for coming, Terry.
Thank you, Kristen. So yes, good evening, Brentwood board members. So again, my name is Terry Vachon. If I haven't met you before, I'm the general manager for the Parks, Culture and Recreation Department for the Clearview Township. I also have with me some of my team members. You can't see their faces right now, but they're in the background. So we have Miss Amanda Murray, who I'm sure you all know who she is. She helped us today with the presentation that you're going to see. Also, we have Jessica Kodyer, who is our recreation assistant, and Courtney Rogers, who's our youth center coordinator. So the four of us have worked together and put together the presentation that you're going to see this evening. Can I ask that before I start the presentation, may I ask that folks put their microphones on mute? And if you have some questions later on, just unmute yourselves because I'm getting a lot of feedback and it's excellent. Appreciate that. So Kristen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present present my PowerPoint. I have approximately about 18 slides, and then I'll ask folks to write down their questions. I have put slide numbers on each slide, so I can always go back later on if you have a question regarding a specific slide that you're going to see, and we can always go back after and we can always answer your question. Is that okay with you, Kristen? I'll take silence as consent. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you all. Let me just 1 second here. I just got to make sure that the one slide. Yeah, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that the presenter view was off because it kind of makes it difficult. Here we go. Can you all see that? Can you guys all see my presentation? A thumbs up. I can see you guys. So you guys, a thumbs up? Yep, perfect. All right, let's start from the beginning. So again, thank you for allowing me to make a presentation. The presentation that you will see this evening is on behalf of staff and council of Clearview Township. The presentation will be in two parts this evening. The first part being information that I'll be providing you all regarding the small halls AODA capital requirements. A lot of the information you'll see is, represents the 6 halls altogether, but you will see in the presentation that, Brentwood Hall is bolded and highlighted. And then we'll have a part 2, whereas we're going to present council's options that they've brainstormed with, and then we'll be seeking some feedback from the Brentwood Hall board members on those options, and of course answer any questions that you may have. So moving on. So basically, how did we get here? Why do we require AODA renovations? So again, very quickly, as you may or may not know, the Ontario provincial government implemented accessibility standards to help business and organizations to remove barriers. And it's obviously to improve the accessibility in 5 key areas. And we'll touch on those 5 key areas very shortly. These standards are part of the Accessibility for Ontario with Disabilities Act, and it's referred to as AODA. AODA has been active in Ontario since 2005. However, people might be wondering, what is AODA? So the Accessibility for Ontario's with Disability Act from 2005 is an Ontario law mandating that organizations such as Clearview Township must follow standards to become more accessible to people with disabilities. The goal for the province is obviously to be fully accessible by 2025. Again, all levels of government, the private sector, non-for-profits must all comply with this legislation. There are some significant fines that the province has set if we do not adhere to these standards. And if they deemed those offenses to be a major offense, the fines could be up to $100,000 per day. Again, these are for major offenses. So to my knowledge, there hasn't been too many fines put forth by the province, but one day they may, and they could be extensive. Second, the council of every municipality that has a population not less than 10,000 shall establish an accessibility advisory committee, in which Clearview Township has. And third, by January 1st, 2016, corporations with 50 plus employees need to make new or develop public spaces accessible. Obviously, we've passed the 2016 date, and no new dates have been updated by the AODA Act. But we do know that the province of Ontario wants to have an accessible province by 2025. We've also set some timelines for the township and for council and for the hall boards to make decisions. So on the bottom of my slide here, you can see that back in April of 2020, council received an extensive report from our engineers called RJ Burnsides. The report, a lot of the information that you will see this evening is in reference to that report. During the budget deliberations of 2021, so back in January, council recognized that we waited a year due to the pandemic to get this project going. But they decided at that point that they wanted to start this process, go through the brainstorming sessions, make presentations to the halls, get their feedback, and start making some decisions. So council in February had 2 brainstorming sessions to come up with the options that we will be presenting to you this evening. We're hoping in March and April, we'll be able to meet all the individual hall boards and even perhaps make some public presentations if council so chooses. In May of this year, our goal as staff is to bring back reports for individual halls to council on your feedback and your preferred options to provide back to council. And then again, we're hoping at some point in time in June to September in 2021 to start implementing these decisions that both the council and the hall boards have made. Again, we want to reflect on why are we really doing this. And again, I talked about the five areas that the province implemented these standards. So the 5 of them are information and communications, employment, transportation, design of public spaces, and customer service. We know that all of our community halls touch on the bottom 2, which is design of public spaces and customer service. Again, why do we need the AODA? We know that accessibility is good for both the economy and the community. The population of Ontarians with disability is steadily growing. We know this from stats. The accessible information and employment make it possible for this growing group of people to contribute to the economy and to society. Likewise, accessible transportation and public spaces ensure that people can move around their communities. One of my personal favorites is finally, the standards of AODA give all people an equal footing as they work, play, teach, buy, sell, and use their diverse talents to benefit their communities and their province. I've also captured here four what we're calling these thought bubbles for your knowledge. First one is people with disabilities are just like everyone else. They shop and do business with their friends and family. Second, as our population ages, the number of people with disabilities will obviously increase. Third, the key is that the goal date for is to have an accessible Ontario in 2025, as previously mentioned. And again, highlighted in bold, one of my favorites is it's not public if everyone can't use it. So this is why we're really talking about AODA, and this is why the council is proposing spending money to update our halls. Some key financial notes to share with you all. Council in the last 6 to 7 years has been placing money in a reserve for these projects. As of December 31st, 2020, Clearview Township has $1.266 million in a reserve. In 2021, an additional $250,000 will be placed in that reserve, making a projected balance of $1.5 million. We further broke that $1.5 million into 6 halls, and if we divide it by 6, it equals $252,000 per hall. If in Burnside's report, it does not include the station on the green. But if we would include the station on the green and add a 7th hall, then that reserve would be broken down to $216,000 per hall. We also know that the cost of insurance annually for the 6 halls by Clearview Township is approximately $9,000 per year. We also know that the cost of financing right now is very low, maybe even historically low. So the current commercial rates are fluctuating around the 2% mark. Finally, we also know that Clearview Township also provides operational expense savings and or even potential revenues to our halls. Items such as water and sewer expenses, solar revenue, snow removal, grass cutting, garbage removal, some promotions, obviously some staff resources such as our finance department and my department as well. We don't have a fixed amount of what that's worth because it's a variable amount, but we know that support is there presently. This evening you're gonna hear the words fads quite often. And what is fads? And again, this is very, very important for us to share this with you all this evening. FADS is an acronym for Facility Accessibility Design Standards. In essence, it's a quote unquote made for Clearview Township standard. Its use is mandatory for all construction projects at town facilities, including new construction, additions, renovations, and capital replacement. So again, in essence, these are standards that are over and above the minimum standards put out by the Ontario Building Code. Burnside's, in their report, also identified what they've called modified FADs, meaning that, so if you take the FAD standards and you would do some small change or significant changes to them, you could modify the FADs. Again, 2 key parts that we can consider, which would make the FADs modified, would be to, 1, I'm hoping you guys can all see my black cursor here, but 1, allow either a universal washroom or an accessible multi-stall washroom on each floor, rather than both a universal washroom and accessible multi-stall washroom on each floor. Obviously, this one does not pertain to the Brentwood Hall, as the Brentwood Hall only has 1 floor. Second, if the standards, we could waive the requirements to include an area of refuge at exits not located on an accessible path. So again, we can modify the Clearview FAD standards with those 2 significant changes, and it would have an impact on the cost of construction. and we'll share those costs very shortly. Finally, on the bottom, we've also came up with what we're calling a hybrid FADS concept, which is items that are between the Clearview standards and the minimum building code standards. So
Can anyone else hear Terry, or did I just lose him?
No, I think Terry froze.
Yeah, I can't hear him
Okay,
either,
good.
Kayla.
Okay, I thought I was going crazy.
I can't either.
No, Terry froze.
Okay, I see.
He just actually texted us and said he lost power.
No way.
Yeah. Amanda as well.
I don't see the mayor either.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Danielle's on the phone?
Kristen says that Collingwood power flickered.
Okay.